Good afternoon, everyone. We're still waiting on at least one board member to show up for a quorum, but I'll run through the administrative items while we're waiting on someone to show up. But welcome to the December 2nd, 2024 meeting of the City of Charleston's Design Review Board. My name is Erica Chase, the board's chairperson. Members with us so far tonight are Aaron Stevens and Lucas Boyd. Ashley Jackrell and Ben Whitener should be joining us shortly, and Stephanie Tillerson is running late. Members of the city staff with us tonight are David Meeks, Brad Thomas, and Patrick Carlson. We do not have any board members that are recused from any items. Agenda item number 5, 3030 Maybank Highway has been deferred by the applicant, and we have not received any public comments submitted ahead of the meeting. The order of the meeting will be as follows. David will give an introduction of each project, and then the applicant team will have 10 minutes to make their project presentation. If you need more than 10 minutes at the start of your presentation, please let me know. We will then open up the meeting for board questions and then public comments. David will then give city staff recommendations, and then the applicant team may have 5 minutes to clarify or respond to any public comments or city staff comments. We will then go into board discussion, motion, and voting. During board discussion, the applicant team may only speak to clarify inaccurate information or if asked a question by a board member. If everyone could please silence all cell phones. And I do want to remind any members of the public with us tonight that comments are limited only to site design and architecture of buildings only. Our board does not have authority over land uses such as zoning issues, building density, flooding, or traffic. So now that we have a quorum, we'll get started on agenda item number 1. 513 Savannah Highway, requesting full demolition of a garage over 50 years of age.
Thank you, Erica. Just a few context slides before we get started. If I could direct your attention to the screen. See the red thumbtack is the location of this property. A little bit closer view. And closer view, this is the building, the residence up on Savannah Highway, and the garage in question demolition is this structure back here. Closer view. I spoke to the applicant about, you can go ahead and step on up, but I'm just going to be running through, he's going to give a brief introduction, but then I'm going to run through the slides.
My name is Stephen Holt, and I'm the owner, one of the owners of that property. That garage has been there, I didn't know beyond 50 years, but it's a hodgepodge. You can look at it. It was a little garage, then they added on another section and another section. We considered renovating it, but the concrete slab is like 4 different levels. So that's just to tear it down, be done with it, plant grass and clean it up. It's nice.
And this is the view from the street. Only visible.
The interiors, it was put together with whatever was handy at the time.
Oh my. Thanks, story.
That's the plan.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak on this application? With none, David, staff comments, please.
Thank you. Staff observations in the ordinance that discusses demolition in the purview of the design review board. It states that the board should consider the architectural and aesthetic features of the structure, the nature and quality of the structure, including the architectural fabric, any historical significance, the nature and quality of the surrounding area, and the structure's contribution to the overall streetscape of the area. The portion of the Savannah Highway overlay that discusses demolition states existing principal buildings shall be retained. And it goes on about other issues, but this is not a principal building. So staff comment number 1 is that as the garage is not a principal building and staff does not see this as having any qualities mentioned above, staff does support the demolition of the garage. We recommend approval for demolition.
Thank you, David. Assume the applicant has nothing to respond to. And we're now in board discussion, motion, and voting.
I agree with staff's comments. It doesn't contribute to the overall streetscape of the area. Lacks architectural merit. Seems like an odd collision of masses and roof forms. So
The motion to approve. Is
motion to approve demolition.
there a second? Okay, Scott, Aaron is a second. Any further discussion? I'll roll Ashley.
Yes.
Lucas.
Yes.
I'm also yes in favor. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is 50 Prosper Street, requesting full demolition of the former Pepsi site buildings over 50 years of age.
Okay, I have just a few context slides. You can see the red thumbtack in the location. And on upper. One of the sides. 50 Prosper. Closer view. And so we're talking about all these structures and then this one as well over here. This portion up here is the only red brick portion, and then the rest, I believe, are all metal buildings. There is a cemetery directly adjacent. In fact, some of the tombstones are right up against the foundation. So that's one of our staff comments, is just to be mindful of that. Here's the actual site showing the demolition request. But if you have anything else to add, I can just start flipping through the slides if you want to say.
David, if you
anything
could.
else.
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Gary Brady with Hoyt Brady. It's my son, Jake. Kyle Hoyt, who's prepared the packet for submittal, was called away on another project, so he's not here to present. The package you have is very thorough. If I do anything, I'd call your attention to one phase, one portion of the report, but historical significance, which is page 1 of 9. First page.
It's after the slides.
And just indicating that our research shows that the state has no historical significance of the buildings that are there, and Charleston Historical Preservation Society has no historical significance of the buildings that are there as well.
Thank you. Anything else? Anyone here from the public that would like to speak on this application? Any questions from board members?
David, are all the, are all the buildings over 50 years old, or is it just the brick building?
Just the brick building.
That's what I thought. So really the other buildings didn't
Well,
become.
We were unsure, because we did look at some 1973 aerials, and some of the metal buildings looked like they were there as well. Some footprints have changed. There's definitely been changes, and we were unsure, but there might be some of the metal buildings. Also. In fact, I think the historic aerials, here's the historic aerials photo. And we were comparing, and there's some similarities, which I think some of the buildings are existing,
Everything's going right.
but yes. Which is, let me go back to, it's a little more current.
So the brick building is in the top right corner and actually crosses the property line of the cemetery, which makes it insurable.
Is only that portion of it brick, just that small portion of it?
Just this right. We go to
Of curiosity, not for the application itself, do you have to get easements to be able to demo that, or how does that?
Working on that.
That seems like a really complicated situation.
Like they
You know how you.
Understand.
There's always complications in every project.
There, anything that's not developed these days, there's a reason.
board discussion.
Questions? I think David still, is there anything else? Questions?
Oh.
Any other board questions? David, staff comments, please.
Should I read the whole first paragraph again? It's,
No, I don't think
it's a
so.
repeat of what we
No.
just heard about what's in the ordinance and what we're looking for. But staff comment one, staff has reviewed the proposed demolition and does not see that these structures have any architectural merit. Staff supports the demolition. Number two, staff requires that the existing Born in the Carolinas sign, I didn't get to that. This is on the west facade facing Meeting Street. We are asking that this be saved and refurbished and used somewhere on the exterior of the future development. Number three, all demolition work is considered.
Make sure it's not a coke plant.
All demolition work is considered the adjacent or nearby structures, the grave sites, and the protection and monitoring thereof. Any of the demo or future work involving significant vibration, such as driven tiles, may be reasonably suspected to be a threat to nearby grave sites. A program must be in place addressing how these grave sites are to be addressed and protected and monitored. But we do recommend approval of demolition.
Thanks, David. Anything you want to clarify or respond to? Are welcome to sit down. We're now in board discussion, motion and voting.
I have a question for David, I guess. The sign, what is that made of? Is it,
It's metal. I
it's
believe.
metal? Okay.
Can you confirm?
I think it is.
And it's just mounted to the building, I
It
assume?
looks that,
Okay.
it looks that way. Yeah, I haven't been up close to it.
I have similar comments from the previous one. Doesn't contribute to the overall streetscape of the area, lacks architectural merit. So I would make a motion for approval of demolition with staff comments 1 through 3.
Thank you, Ben. Do we have a second?
Before we second, do we agree the merit of the saving of the sign, considering we don't know if it would incorporate into a future? Because it does say requires, not consider.
That's a good point.
We switch it to.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you for
yeah,
sharing
can
your
we-
motion real quick.
Suggest.
Rescind the
Thanks.
motion and
Is there significant, do we know, history or anything with the sign?
Really don't, I mean, we've gone back and seen that it's been around since quite a while since the buildings have been there.
consider reusing the
Yeah.
sign. So make a motion for approval of demolition, staff comments 1 and 3. And board comment, consider reusing the Born in the Carolina sign on the west facade.
So we have a motion for approval of demolition with staff comments 1 and 3. Board comment is staff comment number 2, just modified so that it's considered versus required to retain, refurbish, and use the Born in the Carolina sign somewhere in the future development. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? I'll roll. Aaron,
Yes, in favor.
Ashley,
Yes.
I'm also yes in favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we make Pepsi pay for that sign? Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item number 3, Teresa Drive, requesting conceptual approval for a new townhome community containing 16 units and 4 buildings.
Thank you. A few about some slides to show everybody where this is located. Just off the James Island connector. And it's gonna be in this space right here. And this is a view from this connector. A pretty good buffer between the connector and the development. And then this is from Teresa Drive looking into the site. And
Thank you.
Step it up.
Peter Ramsey with Allison Ramsey Architects. I don't know what you guys remember, but we brought this before you a few months back. At the time, there was a little confusion amongst our team as to what was getting reviewed, what was under board's purview, and a whole bunch of things, but in the end, you guys were very clear on your direction of what we should do when we left out of here. There were kind of two big items that we took away from the meeting. One was to don't come back without having addressed some mass and height and scale to the project. And then the second was an issue of monotony to the buildings. So hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at this and see that we got back together. We worked pretty hard to address those items and listen to you. So the buildings on Teresa Drive, a full story for the most part has been removed from those buildings. They've been pushed down closer to grade. We still did leave them elevated because we didn't like them pushed all the way down to the ground. But the overall mass of those buildings were drastically reduced. The buildings to the rear, the facades were revised, porches were removed. Some massings have been dealt with. Overall height on those were addressed as well. And then to try and address the monotony issue, we changed some of the proportions of how those buildings look just so that they weren't a repeat of the double-story columns with the dormers on top. And then we put together some renderings so that you can kind of see the new version of what we brought back. And then I believe Mr. David has a slide in here that we put together just to show the comparison of what was presented before to you and then what we're coming back to so that you can see what we've done to address this. Then we're here to address any questions you have. We've made some site adjustments as well, just to kind of clean up some guest parking situations that we had to resolve after changing some things and to improve just some overall visuals. Outside of that, not much has changed.
And this is the previous concepts.
And I apologize. Did you state your name for the record?
Cooter Ramsey
Okay,
with
thank you.
Allison Ramsey.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the board?
Anything, anybody want to see? We haven't gone over yet.
I guess, I know I remember the question from the last meeting. Neighborhood meetings or anything? Any discussion with any neighbors about what the plans were?
Personally, I have had no discussions. I'm not sure if developers had any meetings with them prior to us kind of doing this last round.
I think the last meeting, there were a couple of representatives here at the meeting that were objecting to the height, which has been dramatically.
Yeah. The only other question I had was, was it studied pushing the buildings back further from Teresa to look to be closer to where the adjacent houses are? Looks like this development's sitting, what, a good 20 feet or so in front of the adjacent houses closer to the street.
There may be a little wiggle room where we could push a little further back.
I was just curious if it was
makes
studied.
sense. I think our preference would be to keep
Keep
them
it
up
further
close and
closer.
try and address
Okay.
the street as much as possible. It shows up in those renderings pretty well too. You can kind of see the new sidewalk where the building's set. You know, I think it presents itself pretty nicely. We do have to bring in a good bit of fill.
And we're still raising the site up by 5 feet or
Yeah.
6 feet. That's my only concern, but anyway, that's the only question I had.
Well, speaking of that, can you go back to those renderings? Because I remember that being a point of discussion at the last meeting, that the amount of fill being brought up. That rendering that we're looking at from the front, and I agree, it's an urban type, it's a townhouse. I think it sits quite nicely on the street in terms of the distance from the street. But will it actually look like that in terms of the topography?
That's pretty close. This one on the bottom right, artist got a little out of control with, but that bottom left one is actually pretty darn close.
So it's not gonna be looking like it's sitting on a berm. or
It's no, you know, that entry between the two buildings is coming in a little lower and it kind of ramps up pretty quickly, but we're doing everything we can to kind of soften that. And assuming that you guys like what you see here today, we'll be addressing that further again with the next round as well.
So I think, David, if you can flip to page 8, I think is the one, sort of it's called, that shows the site section.
I might have different page numbers than you.
It was just at the bottom. It was there, page 8. I don't know. The renderings were page 9, so probably.
Oh, okay.
It's the street section.
Yeah, that one, because look at the ground section there, it's different than. I feel like you can also see it pretty well on.
Yeah,
page
these are
3
the,
and 4.
this is the main street, right, Teresa?
Yeah.
These are the two
Those are the
adjacent
houses.
houses.
And see how the ground slopes up and down.
Basically, the first floor is at the top of the window.
Mhm.
What are the two dash lines we're looking at? It's not DFE and BFE, is it?
I don't believe it is. I'm not sure from here, to be honest with you. My eyes are old.
I would assume it's the base flood elevation and the finished floor elevation.
No.
It's not.
I don't think it is.
The bottom one has to be the finished floor elevation,
And I don't want the top of this.
unless that's where it has to be.
No, finish floor.
I know, I mean, unless they have to raise it that
Oh.
much higher.
There may be an opportunity as we get into this to try and terrace out that grade to the front as well, to do something so that it's not just one big slope. We just haven't gotten to that level yet.
Is there a grading plan? It wasn't your first set.
Don't believe they revised everything.
Any other questions?
Did we never received a labeled landscape plan for this, David?
Yeah,
Did
and I'm
you?
wondering if I even brought that to their attention now that
You did.
okay.
Yeah, I know on their next sheet, they had some, there you go, they had some quantities, but never connected the dot with an actual legend.
Or labels, because you can't tell like what plan is what. in the-
Yeah, I think on their plan, they had labeled some, but not all of them. But yeah, no, that,
None of them are.
that
Nothing's labeled in the plan that I got, that's why I was asking if there was another one. Says dash lines are BFE and CSE. 12 and 14 feet.
Yeah, then the stairs gonna have to be,
The whole.
the whole building's gonna have to be raised another 2 feet.
pretty sure we've got the building good to go. I'm not sure what those lines are on that streetscape.
Well,
We'll
if you
get
look,
back and-
if you
and
look
check
at your
them.
section, if you look at your section on page 4, it shows the DFE basically at the windowsill, which is a good 2 feet higher than the finished floor. That's right.
Pretty sure that the building will not be going up higher than what you're seeing there. I'm guessing there's something wrong with those dash lines going across there.
Can we go back to the elevations and sections?
If you look at page 4 on the 3 unit, you can see what we're talking about. You see right here. If you zoom into that, you can see where it says 14.
Do you want me to zoom in?
Yes, please.
Oh, gosh. I don't know.
We don't have the power.
Do that.
You don't have the power to zoom. You gotta squint your eyes and look really carefully.
But you can kind of.
It says,
What's it labeled?
yeah, design flood elevation 14 feet at the windowsill. So that's your grade, that's your finished floor, 2 feet lower than. At least that's what your drawing's saying.
Which is consistent with the other section too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so that other section,
Mhm.
it would be, it's actually drawn, it should be higher.
Yeah.
In that other section.
Yeah, there's not an existing survey. Or anything here. We receive an existing conditions plan, David?
If it's not in the set, no.
consistent with the adjacent house that's got a first floor raised up.
Notice that, yeah.
Is your existing grade throughout the site?
No clue from here.
Current existing, is that the question?
It's probably not drawing.
It's not, at least that I can see.
Does it show other spots in the landscape plan?
No, those
Those
are
are just trees,
points.
We have a survey. Is the survey not in this set?
No,
Planning plan.
the survey would confirm that 12-foot BFE too, if it. Any other questions from the board? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak on this application? With none, David, staff comments, please.
Few staff observations. The main reason the applicants were deferred at the last review was based on height, scale, and mass of the proposed building. The applicants have reduced the heights of the proposed townhome by 1 floor, which staff can now support. Some of the design direction and monotony was also addressed with the breaking up of the porches on the long stretches of the building. The previous proposal seemed out of place with the buildings that were much taller than the surrounding existing buildings. The current proposal is better with the heights reduced. The townhomes that face Teresa are also much improved with the false doors removed, added porches, and the parking that was underneath these units have been removed, which grounds the units much better. The 5-unit buildings do not have back doors in the units, but staff can support this because it is not possible to have a backyard with the proposed steep slope behind the buildings. This, I was looking at the grading plan from the previous submittal to see that there was a steep slope behind the buildings, but there wasn't a grading plan in this set. Staff comment number 1, staff recommends adding garage doors for security and aesthetic reasons. Staff comment number 2, staff supports the exterior light style as shown on sheet 7 of the 3-unit building set, but we do recommend conceptual approval.
Thanks, David. Anything you want to respond or clarify to?
No, ma'am.
Now in board discussion, motion and vote.
Well, I think, we'll say the architecture is significantly improved. Quite nice buildings, well proportioned and everything, but I think, there's just some outstanding issues here, isn't there? With, kind of a lack of understanding of existing grades, the mislabeled DFE and, or maybe not mislabeled BFE and DFE, that would constitute a different building design effectively. And the planting information. So yeah,
I think last time we denied, so I do think it's made a significant improvement with the architecture, like Lucas says. I don't have an issue with the style, the masses in general, the buildings in the back and the rear. 100%. I just think, I feel like like Lucas said again, not knowing the exact where the finished floor is going to be, and you know, you look at that elevation, looking south on Teresa Drive. If that goes up to where it says it is, that second line, it's close to the soffit line of the existing 1-story houses right next door.
I'd be surprised if the same building could work.
Yeah,
Probably wouldn't.
and that's why I would suggest well, I will make a motion unless y'all have a comment.
I just say that particularly because some of the challenges of the site are being addressed with like significant landscape berms and mounding. The landscape planting plan is even more important because that's how you're gonna like make it blend into the surroundings a little bit better and bring it down to scale. With it, you know, not appear to be just sat on top of a big hill. And so, especially with that in mind, I think the landscape plan becomes more important. And so we'll absolutely need that, you know, better developed to consider this. plan.
So I'd like to make a motion for a deferral.
Oops.
And, a board comment for confirmation of the BFE, DFE grading plan.
We say, the grading plan to show existing and
To
proposed.
show existing and proposed grades. And how do you want to say it, Aaron? Landscape plan needs to be more developed, or
I'd say, yeah, developed, like, yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Can we ask for that before preliminary?
Conceptually, I mean, I think it's,
Yeah.
again, I think it's really important for the scale of the building.
I think it's a like, landscape plan to be developed more conceptually. I think it's, at least I assume it's there, it's just not correlated between.
Well, nothing's labeled, so
Yeah,
you can't
exactly,
tell what's
like-
what.
So we have a motion for deferral with no staff comments, correct?
yeah, I think that's kind of,
Board comments, one, provide confirmation of the base flood elevation and your design flood elevation. Two, provide a conceptual grading plan showing your existing and proposed contours or grades. And three, landscape plan should be more developed conceptually. Is there a second? Second, Ashley. I'll call roll. Aaron,
Yes, in favor.
Lucas,
Yes, I'm saying.
I'm also yes in favor. Thank you very much.
guys.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item number 43075 Maybank Highway, requesting preliminary approval for a new Trident emergency room building.
Thank you, Erica. We've seen this one before recently, but still have just a few context slides. See here, the bring the red thumbtack as the location.
We can't get them.
Carrasco and Maybank Highway.
That's true.
Yeah.
Hey, good to be back. You guys, it's warmer here than it is in Knoxville right now.
Oh, wow.
Pleasant trip. You guys got 53, we got 39. And it's supposed to snow tomorrow.
Yes.
Hi, glad to be back with you guys. Daniel Solis for the record from Perpendicular Architects. Also got with me Connor Ball and Bubba Ingram representing Civil and Landscape. Just like saying, you guys saw this a little bit about a month ago. We've gone back, made some tweaks. We've gotten rid of a lot of the faux elements that we had before. We've heard your comments about the windows. What we've tried to do is group the windows together to give us that bigger window feel. And in the center, I think there was we had a behavioral health room that was preventing us from having real glass in that room. It's actually not very acceptable to put glass in those rooms, so blanking, and we've introduced some green screen there to kind of help some of the landscaping. We may move into some of those elements on some of the other parts of the buildings in the next phase, but.
Let me know when you'd like to advance.
Sure, yeah, I'll tell you, let me just start with the comments, that'll keep me on track. Exam room 9, that was our 8, I think 4.0 and now 4.1 sheet. 4 was the previous plan. 4.1 is the new plan. We also straightened out that plan wall, so we didn't have those. I think the discussion was, is it an offset, a bump out? But we just.
I'm not sure you're-
It's
I'm not sure the page number you want me to. go to.
it's A 4.1. I think it's about 15 or so pages in. Back just a few more.
floor plan.
Yeah, the floor plan. Yeah, here we go. So on that plan north wall, we straightened that section between the two gables. We straightened that out and we've kind of grouped the windows together to create a rhythm of 2s. And then we left the blank spot in the middle there where we have that behavioral room. And that'll allow us to introduce that green screen on the outside. So bring some balance to the overall elevation, but also not make it so obvious that we just don't have windows in that space. But the first one was exam room 9, which I think is
On the south wall to the right of the ambulance entrance, we had that window kind of tucked behind the column, and we moved that, we just mirrored that room to move that window plan right. So we get it out from its hiding place, a little more apparent, and then also a better view for a patient in that room. Regarding the patient drop-off entry, I didn't bring my eyes today. Regarding the patient drop-off entry, we were talking about the front entry doors, and I think that's A 6.2. Yeah, the lower elevation there. We added a transom above the double slider doors, and then we took the upper pane out of the two windows on either side to kind of bring all of that into one kind of harmonious level there. Comment number 3 was stricken. For the generator and trash enclosures, we had that section drawn on page 8. It's about 23. There we go. On the very left-hand side there. We've got it denoted at the top, but it's a 12-foot wall around the generator and just an 8-foot wall around the trash enclosure. And then there was, we'll have to back up a few, David, to about the 4th page in. I think it's the civil sheet C200 in the lower left-hand corner there of the building. We had a low knee wall that's just a blind wall for the gas meter. And the sidewalk in that wall, they come back and revise that, so we have paving around that entire area. And then I'll send you back to the floor plan, A 4.1. Comment where the floor plan shows 2 main entry doors as single wide swing doors, but they should have been shown as double wide slide doors. What we've got in there, it's actually is a slider, but those doors, when it's open, break open. And so the swing that we're showing there is actually the direction that the doors together break open, so that you've got the full about 8-foot egress distance there. And then I think the next question's got a little more into the landscape, so I can let
Connor Ball, landscape architect. I think we're kind of tasked with simplifying the landscape plan, giving more of a low country feel, naturalizing the site, bringing that pond kind of into the site, not just being a pond. We worked with the civil engineers to kind of, with the utilities and the stormwater and kind of meandering the wall near the drop off to kind of create some better areas. We really tried to work on the areas under the existing trees, preserving that area, make it more naturalized, and then naturalizing the pond. We worked with Christina Harvey, local landscape architect from Stantec, to kind of look through our plant palette, kind of the ins and outs of that. Definitely went through utilities, make sure we had none of those in the islands, no conflicts, so we can make sure the trees are there. I think we kind of hit most of the points, labeled the plan. I think we gave you a color rendered plan to look at as well, make it a little easier.
Thank you.
Another thing I wanted to add is towards the end of the package, we've got some renderings. We started doing some color studies on the building, more of a monochromatic white gray roof, and then we started looking at some of the shade of blue and a shade of green. They're not exact to other buildings in the area, but working with some of the James Hardy color palette, that is a through body colored panel to help with maintenance. But we thought a couple of those colors looked pretty appropriate for the area. But again, we've got a white, a blue, and a green. I think they all personally think it fit in that area with the other projects we've seen, the other buildings we've seen. But I don't know if this committee has a ton of opinion about colors. But before we presented anything to our client, we wanted to make sure that we're not doing them something that's not going to gain effect. So that's.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I just have one question. The Main Street facade, it looks like you cleaned up the windows a lot. And the only one I'm still sort of curious about, or just want to ask about, is I assume you're putting spandrel glass in front of the public toilet.
Yes, that's the only one on that facade that's not truly clear glass. And again, we can address that with blinds, so you still have clear glass instead of having that more reflective.
It looks like you've got a wall. Looks like you're showing it with a wall closing off that.
Right. Yeah, we can do spandrel. We've also done that same with the window blind in the wall, close the blind. before the
Okay.
wall gets closed up. We haven't selected window treatments for the building yet, but it's typically either like, roller shades, like, the name of the company's gonna escape me now, but, like the. Gonna lose me right now, but the commercial window shades, that also, you get with, just a screening shade, or you get with a blackout shade. But we've done, even the metallic mini blinds where you can close the blind before you actually finish the wall, so that from the outside, what you see through the clear glass is the shade and not just a reflection.
I was also curious, what the intent was with the green vegetated wall, or if that's just a sort of
Yeah,
an
that's,
after.
after
no windows.
green screen. It's
Yeah.
basically just for growing vegetation, local flowers, something there that still provides some balance while we can't put a window in that segment of wall because of the room use behind it. Still trying to provide some interest on that wall elevation instead of just blank wall, and it's Mecco shade. Forget about it.
Can you explain a little better why the windows can't be added to that? What
It's
you're talking about?
frowned upon for behavioral health rooms in general. To make the window work in that room, we can't rotate the bed because of the sight line from the nurse station to that particular patient. If we could rotate the room, we could put a window with polycarbonate glass, but otherwise it's going to require that window to be off-centered, or we could put another fake window in.
That's what I was gonna
That's
ask
what
you.
we're trying to avoid with the fake. So the green screen provides something that's fairly low maintenance, that once it's established, it blends into the rest of the building and the rest of the landscape. You see it more on parking garages and things where they're trying to not make it look so much like a concrete structure. We've used them in other architectural settings where it just provides a nice palette for some sort of planting.
A quick question, just so I understand. So that particular area, there still is a blank wall. There's not
Correct.
like a window and then you have the screen
Correct.
that's blocking the window. It's
Correct,
still just
yeah.
a blank wall. Okay.
It's just one wall.
Any other questions? Is there anyone here from the public to speak on? David, staff comments,
Thank you,
please.
Erica. Staff observations. This project has continued to improve, and DRB staff can support preliminary approval for this project. The applicants have met most all of the previous board and staff comments as stated in the response letter. Staff comment number one, staff does not support the added green screen on the front facade. We were requesting windows back to this area, but I didn't understand that. Can't do real windows. I'll leave that up to the board. Staff supports both the current double window pattern as well as the single windows in the last rendition. But staff would like to see the window mid-mountains brought back. The applicant's response letter states that the bollards and signpost details have been corrected per staff comments, but both old details are still present in the drawings. No U-channel signpost and no yellow bollards. This is found in sheet C21 and 8.8. Number three, all the windows in plan view appear to be flush with the exterior building facade. And DRB has a policy of deep setting the windows into the facade so that there's exterior window sills. Number four, regarding the color choices, staff prefers either the white or the blue. The paler version of the blue is presented, more pastel blue, but staff does recommend preliminary approval.
Thanks, David. Anything you want to clarify or respond to?
I don't think I had called that about the window set, but yeah, we can definitely look at pushing those back in to get some depth on the front side.
Okay, thank you. We are now in board discussion.
I don't think it has come a long way, right? I think, few smallish things, but the green wall stuff You didn't support the agreement?
It's not my favorite.
And you didn't understand why the green wall was there, correct? From a,
Right.
Medical
We
standpoint.
would prefer to see windows there. What we were
If
saying.
windows can't be, I
right,
prefer the
medical,
landscape
yeah.
architecture. But it could, the same effect could be had by putting a planter there and having high plants. Like,
Right.
in front of it. So for that main elevation, I'm wondering, staff alluded to it, but the mismatched mutton pattern. I suggest kind of picking a direction and making it consistent. I would suggest no muttons anywhere. For a slightly more contemporary look. The ganged windows, the ones that are just about 8 to 12 inches apart. I'm wondering if those could be actually ganged and the wall hits the mullions. Yeah. And I'd also encourage you to study those windows going to the floor, if that's possible, the sill at the floor, so it's more consistent with the ones on the gable ends. This is kind of a take it or leave it kind of comment, but at this stage with the current development of the building, I'm not too sure what the brackets at the rate
I thought the same
is
thing.
getting you.
It's kind of a faux addition.
I don't have super strong feelings about it or anything. I think, I realize you're probably limited with the batten height. That we need a band board there or something. But maybe it's worth studying without, and the board and batten just continues all the way to the ridge. I guess the last thing is the awnings. I think the awnings are helping a lot in these because there's significant ceiling height and the trusses and everything beyond the head of the window, so they're breaking it up. I'd encourage you to study a more reduced awning palette. I think there's 3 types here. We have the slanted one, then the pergola style, and then I think I saw like a roll form metal.
Yeah, we have one on the back that's a weather covering for.
Yeah. Maybe picking 1 or 2 of those to see if that could be made to work in all applications. Obviously a pergola won't work over the entrances and everything, but maybe it's a similar language with an opaque covering. I will say and this is another very small thing, the pergola structure is a little beefy for that particular application. Maybe if you do choose to continue with that, studying a little more delicate structure for the pergola awnings. And that's all I had. I by a long shot prefer the white for what it's worth.
There's a lot of contrast even in white. So
Yeah.
I agree. Normally you think of white just kind of washing out, but the battens provide
Oh yeah, lots of shadows.
lots of shadow.
Were the louvers on the gable ends functional louvers?
They can be, we would.
So they didn't have to, they didn't need to be?
Right, it's decorative.
Oh,
We could
okay.
have ridge vents there, we would still pick up, in the soffit, we could still pick up ventilation there.
I say if you don't need them, then definitely get rid of them. And it does appear that way, the brackets on the pergola on the street facade look to be beefier than the brackets on the shed roof.
I think they might just be the same size, just the awning is quite a bit smaller, so it looks.
Yeah.
But either way, it should be like that.
Any additional questions?
Oh, we're being.
Sorry, no more board discussion.
We're in
Okay.
board discussion.
You let me carry on for that long?
Thank you.
Yeah,
What do the landscape guys feel about the
Yeah.
green screens?
I was gonna say, I have some thoughts on that. Can you flip to the plan, David?
Landscape,
Sure, I just wanna see the green screen and plan again.
It's not really showing.
Yeah,
Depending on
I was trying to,
elevation.
can you, you can't zoom in, can you? I don't have my computer in front of me. I was just trying to see like what kind of space we had there, because it's sidewalk comes in pretty tight there. It's like, I think that while I think that the green screens can be good in certain installations, you know, you mentioned like parking garages and things. I feel like that solution feels a bit like industrial or urban for this context. Like, I think it's more appropriate for something like a parking garage. Here it feels kind of stuck there to, you know, solve a problem. So I would encourage exploring some other options, and maybe it is just some taller landscaping or something, but I'd be hesitant because I feel like the material is gonna feel a little out of context, and especially because it takes a while for the vines to fill in, and sometimes they don't do well, and then you end up with these like barren kind of structures that you don't even know what they're there for. I'm hesitant to use it in this area, so I'd suggest exploring some other options for how to, if windows aren't there to break up that facade with some taller landscaping. That's why I wanted to see what
Can I ask
space
a
you have.
question? Because
Yeah.
looking at this, it looks like they have a lot of space there
Right.
to add,
I mean,
now let's say,
The
add some
pathway
here.
could be massaged though, couldn't it?
yeah, and that's what I was
Looks like, yeah,
saying. There's
looks like a
there's
foot.
things they could explore.
I'm like, oh, it's like a foot, but I can't tell how much, or half a foot there. It really squeezes, it pinches in right there.
Well, I mean, I don't think that is an appropriate
Yeah.
solution, so we can
Right.
leave it to them to figure
Come up,
something else
right.
out. We don't
Yeah.
have to solve it for them.
Yeah.
Then the other two comments I have, well, overall, this has come a long way, and I appreciate the revisions and all. I'm concerned along the pathway at the top with, while I like that and the plant selection's fine, you're showing live oaks within inches of the pavement, which I would recommend ways to shift them back, just because they will buckle that pavement really fast. There, if you look across the top, they're basically sitting on the pavement line. So give them some space, because we all know what live oaks do to sidewalks. I'd hate to see the sidewalk or the tree sacrificed because it wasn't planned out more appropriately for spacing. And then the last comment I have is just that I would reconsider the use of the red maples. They just don't thrive here unless they're in very wet and protected situations, and I don't think around the parking lot's a good spot for them.
Make a motion for preliminary approval. Staff comments. I guess
You could skip one and.
let's skip one.
Yeah.
Let's do 2, 3. And 4. And then board comments. Let's see. Study window glazing. Consider glazing going to the ground. With no buttons.
Hold on.
If no buttons.
With no muntins. And then study mold window groupings. Study awnings. Delete applied decoration, louvers and bracket. Red maple, consider different species. What was the other one? Oak tree.
Adjust the placement of the oak trees
Adjust the placement of the oak
along the side and the green screen.
and the green screen.
The restudy. Yeah.
Study the
different
green
solution.
screen.
since we took out staff's comment.
And then
Anything else?
before, are we accepting four? Or do we want to go with white? Staff comment was blue, white, or pale blue.
I think white, but I mean, do we typically tell them what color?
Yeah,
Do we?
Okay.
I thought we have, yeah.
I like the white better.
I like white.
I like white
I
better.
like that white better.
I
Alright,
mean,
so
that's what
eliminate-
a lot of the surrounding context. is.
Eliminate staff comment 4 and then add board comment.
Sure. White.
So I have a motion for preliminary approval with board comment or staff comments 2 and 3. Board comments, number 1, study window glazing, consider glazing going to ground with no buttons. 2, study mold window groupings. 3, study awnings. 4, delete applied decorative louvers and brackets. 5, consider a different species for the red maple. 6, adjust placement of live oaks along Maybank. 7, eliminate the green screen and find an alternate solution. And 8, for the board prefers the white paint. Did I cover that, Ben?
Mhm.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Aaron,
Yes.
Ashley? Yes. Lucas?
Yes.
I'm also yes in favor. Thank you very much. Last on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the November 4th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Thank you, Ben. Is there a second? I'll call roll. Stephanie?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Lucas?
Yes.
I'm also yes in favor.